And welcome everyone to the new faces and old faces alike, especially to those who we saw just last week. It's nice to see you all again for the September 2024 Policy Forum. We'll be running through some policy updates on the RESPECT Act. We'll go through a little bit about what happened during an Impact Week, specifically during Hill Day, and we'll look ahead towards the end of the 118th Congress with a few calls to action. But before that, like we always do, we'll do a quick organization update from Tom Donaldson.
Thank you, Chris. And really what I want to do is to thank everyone. Thank those of you who were in DC last week for Impact Week. It was the best ever by far. And believe me, already plans are underway for next year. Thank everyone for your great work on the legislative and the policy side. We're really coming to the point now. Time is now, and there are plans that Chris and Jen will share with you about the lame duck session and the real opportunities there. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. And looking forward, just very briefly, obviously the international conference in March in Seattle. We hope to see you all there, and make note of the fact that the deadline for abstracts has been extended by a month. So definitely participate or seek to participate or attend. And I want to mention also that one of our new colleagues, Musa Kamara, who is our new affiliate director, we're excited to have him on. Already some great ideas working with Rachel Singh and the council, and we're already approaching 50 affiliates, 50 partners as part of that network, and expect to have many more. And just across the board with the programs that Jen has led the team, it's not just the continuation of the Navigator and the programs that are important to you, but it's the expansion and the extension of the services they provide. So we have a lot going on that you'll now hear. And lastly, I just want to thank you, Jen, and Chris, and the whole policy team for an incredible Hill Day last week. I think probably the most meetings ever, but the most important meetings because of what came out and the information that our team was able to learn and how to proceed to get this done on the Hill. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tom. We are rolling into the last little bit of FASD Awareness Month. So just wanted to call to your attention, if you haven't celebrated yet, there's still time. We do have a really great suite of FASD Awareness Month resources and materials that are free to use. Take them, please, and use them. We've had far more use of our FASD Awareness Month materials than we ever had. We had a 639% increase in those materials being shared since the year before. So people are using them, which is fantastic. And keep your eyes open, because we really want to build on that momentum. And we'll be asking people to volunteer to be part of an advisory board to help us shape what our FASD Awareness Month materials look like for next year. So we'll be putting out a call for that early in the new year. We're already working on, hey, what are we doing for next year? Because we don't wait till September to start planning. That's kind of our Super Bowl. September is our biggest month of the year. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jen Wisdahl. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at FASD United. And I am lucky enough to get to work on the policy team with Chris Melfi, who handles the bulk of policy for us. And again, lots of new faces. I come to this as not only a professional that works in this field, but I have 3 young adults that I am lucky enough to have call me mom that have FASD. And so this is both professional and personal to me, that we're helping to build a better world for my kids, and coming at this from really both angles. So the FASD RESPECT Act is legislation on a federal level that would build education, awareness, and services for people living with FASD and their families. There's room in there absolutely for information and support for awareness and prevention, but the focus really is on supporting people living with FASD, because that's been the piece of the puzzle that's been missing, over the years. It would provide the ability for states to get funding to begin looking at their systems of care and how to weave a thread of FASD informed care into their existing infrastructure. We know that there's the Board of Education. We know that there's the Healthcare Authority. We know that there's all these different silos in state space. How can we fit FASD into all of them? And that's part of what the FASD Respect Act aims to do. It also looks at rebuilding the Center for Excellence. So rather than states trying to reinvent the wheel and figure things out on their own, having a Center for Excellence that takes all the research that's been done and provide technical assistance to the states to show them, hey, this might be a best practice that you want to look at given your existing infrastructure. So that's what the Respect Act does. It's co-sponsored or co-authored, my apologies, by Senator Murkowski from the great state of Alaska, Senator Klobuchar from the great state of Minnesota, and in the House by Representative Don Bacon from the great state of Nebraska, and Representative Betty McCollum from the great state of Minnesota. So we've got some really fierce champions in the House and Senate that are incredibly passionate about getting this bill passed. And we've made progress. We've actually made quite a bit of progress. For the first time in 20 years, we have had legislation pass the HELP Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. All of those somehow fit together magically in one Senate committee, right? But we got it passed, we got it through there. And we got it through there because we tried and we failed in the 117th Congress. And it wasn't a complete failure because we educated so many lawmakers about FASD and about what they can do to help this community. Those legislators that knew about it came forward and are helping us move things forward in the 118th. So for those of you that don't know, legislative sessions run in 2-year cycles, meaning that you have 2 years to get a bill passed. Currently, we are in the second year of the 118th, which means we have until they call in the 118th Congress to get this bill passed. So currently, the House the bill is awaiting votes on the Senate floor. And we're trying to get it either through committee on the House side or merged in with the existing Senate bill on the House side when it meets in conference. So it's almost like you're speaking a different language when we're talking about policy. There's primers. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. But because the bill, the FASD Respect Act, passed in a larger package bill in the Senate that had already passed the House, they're going to meet up in the middle and see where the differences are. And that's called being in conference. And that is where we are hopeful that the FASD Respect Act will remain in that larger package bill. But I digress. We've had some major wins this month and some other things that are going on in the House and Senate that kind of let us know which way the wind is blowing. So Chris, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Jen. And I am thrilled by this slide. It is a nice full page of meetings that happened in September. You heard me mention earlier that we were going to go over a little bit about what happened at Hill Day. So for anyone new and for anyone who's not aware of what Hill Day is 1 day of Impact Week, which happened last week here in Washington, D.C. And Hill Day was a full day of advocacy. We scheduled meetings with legislators, be it congressmen or senators, to educate them on FASD and specifically on the FASD Respect Act. So that was last Tuesday. And here you can see a list of every single meeting we had, minus a couple, because I know there's a few that were scheduled last minute that I'm still trying to follow up on and get them on the official board. But we had just about 50 meetings with legislators spanning 25 states. And as of tomorrow, we will have hand-delivered over 60 letters to members of Congress as well. I was able to sit in on, I think, six of these meetings, and I was really just blown away by this community. I continually am impressed by the way that advocates help others. They bring others in under their wing and make sure that they feel empowered and inspired to go out and do all this advocacy work. Specifically, I was in meetings with, I think, 3 different advocates who was their first time in a meeting like this, and it really was all over the range of advocacy. Dr. Abdul Rahman, I was sitting on your first meeting, that was absolutely fantastic, and I think you held the staffers' attention for 30 minutes straight and got questions out of her, which is phenomenal. And then I was also in meetings with Michelle Warman from Mississippi and her friend Angela Freeman, and it was both of their first meetings, and they were both nervous going into it. And again, they held the staffers' attention for, I want to say, 45 minutes, and had that staffer asking for pictures by the end. I really just can't say enough about the community and how your ability to subtly but powerfully command attention is really, really making an impact. And I'm looking forward to how it can continue. One other point I'd like to make is the ability to bring others into our table is impressive as well. I just know, like, the conversations, while they were focused on FASD and while they were focused on the FASD Respect Act, all the meetings I sat in on sprawled in a positive way, because they got the staffer or the representative thinking about, how does this fit into this other piece of legislation that we're working on? How does this fit into health equity concerns? And again, these are from advocates who admitted prior to the meeting how nervous they were. But once they found out that they're the experts in this field, but they're also the experts of their experience, I think that really empowered them. And I really, really hope to see them in more meetings moving forward. Before we move on to our next slide, I think this might be a good point just to open up the call to anyone who sat in on meetings during Hill Day. If there's anything they want to share, I might just call on a few people because I know you're in some particularly impactful meetings. But if there's anyone who right off the bat would like to jump in, feel free to either unmute or raise your hand. I might just have to call in Kristen Erickson. Oh, I saw Dr. Abdul Rahman.
Well, I was just going to say, it was my first meeting, so I really appreciated all the guidance that you gave ahead of time. But also, it seemed like the legislative staffer who was assigned did like some pre-work or asked for the pre-work to read ahead of time. So I don't know if that's just their typical way that they operate, or if they were particularly interested, but it did sound like from what we heard, that this was something that, fit with the congressman's priorities. And so I think that helped, the fact that she was really engaged, because I think what she was hearing fit in with what she's assigned to do.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. If I remember correctly, we were meeting with Representative Nadler, and that staffer was a former middle school teacher, which is a fantastic get. Like that right out of the bat, perfect. She let us know what she did know and did not know about FASD, which I thought was great. And you brought up a good point. Yeah, she asked for the prep documents, for the briefing documents, which is something that we generally will try to send to them anyways. But the fact that she asked was great. we didn't know she was a teacher going into that meeting. And really the only sort of research you can do on the staffers is through LinkedIn, which can be difficult. I don't think it's stretching. Jen, Tom, please jump in. When you're setting these meetings, it can be appropriate to ask if they want some briefing documents on FASD. And while you're doing that, you can ask how familiar they are with FASD. That's when they might offer up that they have a family member, that they used to be a teacher, anything like that. But thank you so much for sharing. Again, I thought that was a good meeting. Kristen, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm fine, and I'll be on your time zone.
It looks like we lost Kristen. Oh, no, we didn't.
You did?
I was wrong.
No, you know what? I'm driving, so I'm just being very careful. But it was so exciting to go up to the hill. I had my coworker Ruben with me. I won't call you my partner in crime anymore, Ruben. We went to every office of I think every rep and senator. We didn't have meetings with all of them, but we had 2 meetings and they were awesome. I don't, the staffer that we met with did not know anything about it. So we had to kind of explain it, a bit to him. And then we're going to be doing those follow-up letters. So I didn't get a feeling good or bad, but we at least got to talk to him, and we were hoping Elizabeth Warren would be there, but she was not. But it was like just this invigorating day. It was so fun. It was so energizing.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, energizing is definitely the word that was sticking with me about the whole week, but specifically that day. And I'll definitely talk about that a little bit more. Annette, thanks for waiting.
No problem. One meeting that's missing from your slide is I met with Janice, and I met with Pete Aguilar of California. Now, he co-sponsored a year ago, but we had a great meeting with the staffer there. It helped that he's a former Nebraskan like me. And Aguilar is fairly senior in the committee, and that this would be heard in the appropriations committee. And but they just let us know that they've been tracking the bill. So I thought that was really encouraging. They're tracking the bill, and they're watching it, and so there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but he can't co-sponsor. So they were very helpful, and I'd say of all them, I had 6 meetings that day. Representative Crow in Colorado is actually my representative, so that was a nice to meet some of their staff. And her last name was Kunz, so I don't know. That was sort of serendipitous also. The only kind of pushback we really received was with Representative Thompson of California. But we had meetings too with these young staffers, just spent like 45 minutes with us, and they were just, you could tell that they were just soaking all the information in. So, and those would be on Republican sides in a couple of those cases. So, like you said, this was really energizing, and I was very encouraged by the meetings.
I want to add to that too, and that last legislative session when we met with Representative Thompson himself.
Yes. We
were on a call with him for 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. And he said, yeah, absolutely. I will co-sponsor this. So I think, maybe giving a little reminder of that, because I know he is the chair of the
Congressional Wine Caucus.
And last legislative session he did, and sometimes it's breaking through and talking to the member themselves that makes the difference, right? So I would definitely stick with him, because like I said, he co-sponsored last year or last leg session, and he personally met with us and did it. So I think we can break that barrier a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have the information that he'd said that verbally, that I didn't have that, which is because unfortunately I missed that meeting last year. But we will get there.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go to Liz, Annette, I have a new contact in Mike Thompson's office who's there for 1 year, so I'll send that on to you.
Okay.
If you want
Yeah.
another contact. in
And the
there.
poor fellow, was recovering from dental procedure. And so I think he's not that emotive normally, but he was also kind of suffering. So that made it also hard to read his reactions.
Staffers are humans too,
Yes.
very overworked humans in
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
cases.
Yes. Yeah.
Liz,
Yeah, Jen, you set me up because the question I had raised my hand before you even started talking was, okay, so you warned us about the legislative aid du jour, and that's pretty much what I've experienced all along. So my question was, what are the strategy or tactics to actually get meeting with the legislator themselves? Because I kind of feel a little bit frustrated right now, going up to the Hill, talking to, every time we go up there, we talk to somebody else in the same office, and there's really no continuity. Once somebody goes, you're starting all over again. So it's a little, I don't know, frustrating, I guess, the best word.
So Liz, I used to, believe it or not, work in sales. I know this is shocking to most of you. And one of the things we did when you would coach people and you would teach people on how to sell a concept, an idea, or a product is that every no gets you one step closer to a yes. So sometimes instead of counting your wins, if you count your losses and see, maybe it takes me 50 phone calls until I get to somebody that buys something. I'm going to celebrate every single one of those 50 phone calls because I know that it's getting me closer to what I want. So some of it's a little shift in mindset, which is hard, particularly if you're not a delusional salesperson like me. I get that. And if you look at all the people who are governing in the House and Senate, the vast majority of them spent time as a legislative staffer in some form or another. So even if you're talking to somebody who is maybe the same age as your kids, in my case, maybe you're talking to somebody who is rushing between meetings and you're meeting with them in the hallway and you're not even entirely sure that they're totally listening to you. That has also happened. Even if they're just hearing a little bit of what you're saying, we're still educating somebody. And that is important because then the next time they hear about it, they might know a little bit more. And the next time they hear about it, they might not know a little bit more because they do play musical chairs in staffers, right? So there are a number of staffers that I met with this ledge session that were in different offices last ledge session. So again, you might just be doing pre-work for the next ask. And I get it. It's hard and it's frustrating. In terms of getting to meet with the legislator themselves, Kathy White. I'm going to mention Kathy White's name. One of the great things you can do, particularly in an election year, is sign up for their town halls. When they are home and in person in your district, particularly when they're shaking hands and kissing babies looking for votes, that is a great time to have an FASD Respect Act sign. They just hold up and wait patiently in the background, or sign up for a question on, what can you do to support the 1 in 20 constituents in your district that have a fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. Are you aware of the FASD Respect Act, and how can you partner with us to get legislation that supports people with FASD passed? You can sign up and ask questions. You can wear your shirt from Hill Day. That has been a really good way to get a meeting with the legislator themselves. It is incredibly hard to get a meeting with a legislator if in person, like with the legislator, if you don't have somebody from that district with you. So who's an actual constituent. So if you're serving the state and you're trying to get somebody out of your district, that might be a little harder. And that's where the power of community comes in. Who else in your state can be reaching out and making these meetings? because anybody can make a meeting with their representative or their senator, right? They don't need to wait for FASD United to do it. You don't have to have special language to do it. You can just reach out and call their office too, if that's what you want to do. It is harder to get a meeting with the legislator themselves, so.
Yeah, Jen, just to add to that, I think if you want the meeting with the legislator, you're really working on their schedule. So Liz, if you're looking to get one with Tim Kaine, for example, maybe we reach out and just say, I'll take any date you have, right? And you've been so persistent about it as well. But you know, Liz has really hit the grand slam for frustrating meetings, right? You've met in the hallway, you've met a rotating cast, and you've been told after a meeting, sorry, we can't co-sponsor because of our leadership position, but you've done such good work, right? Like Tim Kaine is aware of this. You thankfully did get a chance to meet him in the hallway.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the funny thing. So I just real quickly here, because I know we got to move on, but I went with Kelly Henderson to go see Representative Conley, their office, and we met with this lovely legislative aide. But as she came to us, she said, we have to go out in the hallway. I was like, yeah, no problem with that, because the representative will be here any minute. Basically, we can't use the big room because he's going into the big room. And we both looked at each other like, well, why can't, let's just meet him. And she just took us out in the hallway. So anyway, yeah, that's just kind of how it goes.
But the persistence pays, and that's the thing. None of those efforts, Liz, were in vain at all.
Is there anyone else who would like to share anything from Hill Day or from any other meetings before we move on a little bit? Okay, Jen, I think we can go on to the next slide. All right, so we started off FASD Awareness Month with a new co-sponsor, Representative Swalwell out of California. Well done to the California contingency, always putting in the work. And it looks like we are ending FASD Awareness Month with at least one co-sponsor, and this is an instant impact from Hill Day. Brandon Williams is the congressman from my former district in upstate New York. He met with, I think, a group of 5 or 6, all from the central New York region, spanning Albany all the way over to Rochester. I believe one of my coworkers, Sophie, also sat in on that meeting. And if I'm being honest, I didn't have much hope for this one, but he signed on 3 days later. And I think from the feedback we've been getting from other offices, we should see some more to come. So really, I'm just thrilled with the instant impact of your advocacy. And this is one that I think is important. It's really important to get more House members, more Republican House members. And he was one who I believe had not heard of FASD before. I know some people have left that meeting discouraged about the lack of awareness of FASD. But it's hard to argue with these results. They've clearly been educated, and it's very nice to see this instant impact. That brings us up to 53 co-sponsors in the House, and we're sitting at 12 in the Senate. Okay, besides the really busy week we had with Impact Week and all of the FASD Awareness Month goings on, there's a lot going on in the developmental disability space. And you may look at all of these bills and the Autism Cares Act reauthorization and wonder, why is the FASD Respect Act not being heard? Why has it not passed when we have this slate of 9 other health bills being passed? And I just want to say that I'm offering these up to show that there is a real political will to legislate right now. So as you can see over on the left, 9 different health bills passed through the House. And the real reason I put these up here is because they all passed with unanimous consent. There was no dissenting votes, no nays on any of these, which to me really shows that Congress is ready to act on health-related bills right now, which means that the Support Act or the FASD Respect Act on its own is primed to move as well. I find this incredibly encouraging, especially when you look at some of the people who are championing these bills. We've made inroads with some of them, just to name a few. The two at the top that have to do with Alzheimer's are championed by Susan Collins, co-sponsoring our bill, sits on the HELP committee. A few of the others who could do with some reach out are Bill Arakis, who championed and authored the Congenital Heart Futures Reauthorization Act. I know our Texas group has been working to win over McCall and Burgess, who are responsible for the sickle cell disease bill and the Give Kids a Chance bill. And again, the reason that I'm bringing this up is not to say, shouldn't the FASD Respect Act be included in here? It's really to say that there is the political will to work on these bills right now. And the way that FASD Respect Act is positioned within the Support Act is promising. And if these bills are being passed, the Support Act is coming, the FASD Respect Act is coming as well. Jen, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I think this also gives us insight into who might we reach out to that isn't already engaged in our cause. So with the Autism Cares Act, we identified 46 co-sponsors that hadn't signed on to the FASD Respect Act. Great, that gives us a list of people who we know care about issues similar to ours. Those are people we can reach out to as well. So I think this is encouraging because there have been times earlier this year where nothing was going through. Last year where nothing was going through. So having and seeing movement in the health policy space is actually very encouraging. And I was sitting next to Senator Murkowski's legislative aide at the gala, and she and I were talking about this, and she was encouraged as well to see the movement, to see that things were kind of starting to pick up steam, because that's what we need. And that's part of why pairing all this advocacy and increasing the urgency on the advocacy at the time where things are moving is going to be really important. And I just want to acknowledge Jen Worden, our champion, one of our champions from Florida, in her dogged outreach to Bill Rackus and Dunn. She has been made it her life's mission to get them signed on to the bill and has worked at every turn to do that. And I just want to thank you for that, because the number of legislative assistants you've educated through that has been formidable. So thank you. Yes, victory will be yours, Jen.
Jen, I'm glad you mentioned the 46 co-sponsors that have not signed on to the FASD Respect Act. When we publish this recording on our blog, we'll make that list available as well. We went over this a little last month, and Jen had already mentioned today, but the end of the 118th Congress is coming at the end of this year. We can see that this session officially ends on January 3rd, but the last legislative session is December 20th. What this means is that we just really need to continue on with this policy push. That slide, maybe 2 or 3 slides ago, that was full of meetings, is how I envision October and November going. Really just we need to keep pushing for those meetings to socialize the bill, of course, to educate staffers and congresspeople on the bill, but really just to make sure that we're well positioned to be heard and well positioned to stay in that Support Act once it passes through the Senate. To ensure that everything we see on this slide benefits us, so to ensure that the slate of 9 health bills being passed, the movement on other developmental disability policy benefits us, we are meeting with the House authors later this week to discuss if there are any other health bills that are going to be heard that we can be included in on, just to gain a little bit more information. But we're also going to draft a letter to submit to them from House and Senate authors that will be sent to the House Energy and Commerce Committee that will urge them to include the FASD Respect Act in the final version of support reauthorization. The hopes here is that they will write that letter, author that letter themselves, and then we can shop that around to co-sponsors to have them sign on to that letter. So that's just it. It will be a really, really simple ask to go back to our champions, our co-sponsors, just to urge them to sign on to that letter that will get sent to the committee, just to try to light a fire under them, to get it heard again, but also to make sure that we stay in. Jen, do you want to add anything to that point?
No, I think we are, as we slide into the lame duck session, which we are gradually approaching, our energy level and our advocacy level is really going to need to rise to get this through this year. And I think we can do it. I think there's a lot of positive factors and a lot of things working in our favor and all this pre-work that we've done, but we're going to need more people. We're going to need a bigger boat. And so this is where I would really invite you to encourage other advocates to get involved. You know, we've kind of seen the numbers dwindle a little bit as people have gotten used to the idea of the FASD Respect Act, and it's not new and shiny anymore, right? We need to bring that new shininess back if we want to get it passed, because this is a foundational bill that will allow us to do other things in the policy space that'll benefit families and benefit, most importantly, benefit people living with FASD. So I really want to encourage you to invite some people to talk about this. And if that means bringing Chris or I into a meeting to talk with some people in your state that might be willing to do some advocacy work, or just even sit in on a meeting with their legislator, this would be worth doing. The text campaign, yes, we are definitely going to need to do that again. However, it really doesn't have the impact everybody thinks it does. It sends a letter. The letter kind of gets ignored as spam email. Like it does something, they'll count the number of letters that are sent, but the text campaigns don't do what the meetings do. And if you give somebody the option of doing the text campaign versus doing a meeting, what are they going to do? They're going to do the text campaign. And so again, we can do it. Just realize that we're doing it kind of more for us than for getting things done. It feels good to do it. It raises some awareness. It gets some people motivated. I don't know. Maybe let's put it out there to the group. You know, show of hands. Do you think it would be helpful to do the text campaign? Is there anybody who feels really strongly that that might help get more people involved? Because I like it too, Kristen. I mean, I set it up in the first place. So, you know, I'm definitely not bad mouthing it. But by the same token, we've got to have our energy really focused for this last part. So, you know, are there any thoughts on that?
Do you think it's just, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it would be better just to do, you know, try to do some last minute meetings on the people we've been dropping information to, haven't gotten meetings with, the ones that haven't signed on? Because I mean, I can go that route too.
Yeah, I think that really is the meetings make the difference.
And we don't have any Republicans, but we can do it anyway.
There you go. There you go. And the ask right now for the House reps is to get them to co-sponsor the FASD Respect Act. If they are on the Energy and Commerce Health Subcommittee, the ask is to get that bill heard in committee. So that's the big ask. So here's our big ask.
Yeah, and Jen, you teed me up nicely. We definitely need to keep the energy up. And one way that we're going to try to do that is by organizing a virtual Hill Week rather than a Hill Day that we're going to have November 12th through 15th. This will be an opportunity for everyone who was at Hill Day to do some follow-up with their legislators, and more importantly, a chance for everyone who didn't get an opportunity to join us during Impact Week to get those meetings set. Why we're having it focus on this 1 week is so that Jen and I and some other members of the team can block off time to assist you in those meetings in whatever way will help you best. We chose November 12th through 15th because it's right when the Senate and House both get back in session following the election. So hopefully they are ready to go and to legislate. And it also gives us enough time right now to get those meetings set, to get them in the book. I, of course, am here to help in any way to help you get those set up. But I think that a lot of the people who attended Hill Day will tell you that it's actually a lot easier to get those meetings set up as a constituent than it is as somebody with a 202 Washington, D.C. number. Sometimes they see that coming in, or they see the FASD United.org and assume I'm a lobbyist, which isn't true. Again, I am willing and more than willing to help you set these up, walk you through the best way to do it. But I think that this week could be super, super impactful, especially right after the election. So the hope is that everyone who would be willing to do the text campaign would be willing to try to set up a meeting with their legislators, be it their representative or their 2 senators, for another big push. Again, the time is right, will be right for follow-up from Hill Day. We will hopefully have that letter that we were just mentioning ready for other people to sign on to. And it'll be a good time to urge support. Liz asked, is the staff more busy that time of the session or same as any other time? They will be busy. There will be a slate of bills that they are going to try to get out. But I think that's a good thing, right? They'll be doing more legislating and less posturing at that point. There is a lot that will have to get done. If we get on their calendars now, I think we'll be okay. Jen, were you going to say something there?
I was going to say too, as we're booking meetings for Virtual Hill Week, we don't have to just book them for that week, right? If you feel like, hey, it would be better to meet with them the week before, 2 weeks before, whenever, that's fine. There is no timeline that you have to stick to for meeting with your legislators. We also know that it can't just be the people in the room here, the Zoom room here. It needs to be more people. And sometimes it's easier for people who haven't done this before to conceptualize doing something if it's part of a larger event, if they feel like they're in it with other people. And that's where the Virtual Hill Week comes in. So Lex from Colorado, you had a question.
I do. Thank you so much. And this is really exciting because I know that we had quite a few folks in Colorado who couldn't attend FASD Impact Week for several reasons, but I can see folks being really excited about getting to participate in Hill Week still. And I also know we have a few advocates on the call today, Josh and Annette. So good to see you on the call. But just wanted to say that I'm happy to support folks in Colorado in connecting with their legislators and happy to support those meetings. But with that, just wanted to check in with you all. Do you all have messaging or plan to put out messaging around Virtual Hill Week that I can share? Or should I just kind of roll with the concept and go for it?
I'd say if you want to jump on anything right after this call, go ahead, Lex, you're more than capable. I will be putting out some messaging with the blog post for this recording. That will have just an announcement for it. It'll also have a template of a letter that you can send out to aides. So if there's anything else you need, feel free to ask me, but that's what I plan on getting out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Lex, thank you for making yourself available. I'm sure there's others on this call that would be willing to help others in their state as well. I know I mentioned that Jen and I would block off some time slots during the week specifically for this. But I will block off time any day, any week for any policy meeting. That definitely doesn't just go for Virtual Hill Week. Anytime that you want some assistance, even if it's just prepping for a meeting or you just want a quick catch up, anytime, any week, we're all set to go.
Yeah, we'll drop We will drop anything for a Hill meeting. Excellent. Impact Week, and there's a reason why we're rolling you through this. We had FASD Impact Week last week, and we had about 100 people join us in DC for Impact Week. And what we see here, and Chris, I know you can go into this more, but that's Senator Angus King, who showed up at the Red Shoes Gala to give FASD a seat at the table, literally. He is a supporter of the FASD Respect Act, and has been both legislative sessions. And he spoke really eloquently about the need for FASD legislation. And we really appreciated that. Sorry, Chris, I stole your thunder.
No, I'm glad you said that. The only thing I had to add is that in speaking to his staffer, I asked how often the senator has to do these, after hours events, and if he as a staffer often gets pulled away. And he said he doesn't have to do it that often, but even if he did, he felt like this was a great event. He was happy to be there. And again, speaking specifically for a young staffer, he was happy to give up his Monday night to hang out at this event. I thought that was moving. The senator was very kind, I thought, especially with this time. Just one of the type of person where you wouldn't know he was a senator by the way he interacts with everyone, because he was just so open and giving with his time. I was grateful to be able to meet him and talk with him for a few minutes. And we have someone in the chat. Yeah, everyone from Maine that was at the event had the same feeling. Thank you for adding that. We were also unexpectedly joined by Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. I don't think anyone knew that she was coming, but it just proves that it's an important, powerful movement for her to show up unannounced and to make sure that she is seen and heard, but also to see and to hear from everyone. I thought was amazing. I was really grateful for that. I don't know if anyone here has seen the show Veep before, but one of my coworkers, Andy Kacker's wife, was behind me at the registration table. And when Senator Murkowski came up, she tapped me on the shoulder and goes, "That's Senator Murkowski," just like the aide in Veep would have done to the vice president, which I thought was great. And Jen, do you want to speak about?
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to honor Dr. Heather Carmichael Olson at the gala. And for those of you that don't know Heather, she created the Families Moving Forward intervention and has been involved in FASD research and support for many, many, many years. And in addition, she told a great story about how she was tapped to be on a congressional committee to create recommendations for FASD back in 2009. And from that committee, she wrote a white paper, which during Impact Week, we sat everybody down in the room, including leaders from the CDC, NIAAA, Association for Community Living. I am missing a bunch of them, and asked them to look at those recommendations and revisit them through today's eyes. And what concrete steps can we do now moving forward to address FASD from a policy standpoint and from a national standpoint? And so those recommendations that were co-collaborated on by everybody in the room are going to be published as a white paper coming up here in 2025, and will help you use those recommendations to help drive policy going forward. Next Impact Week, we're going to be looking at 3 more of the recommendations from that committee, updating them, revisiting them, writing up a white paper to go with it, distributing that so that those recommendations, instead of being this static report that was, published in 2009 and sitting on a shelf, and it's great, and we refer back to it sometimes, and sometimes we'll cite it, it becomes a living, breathing document that is co-created by people with FASD, their parents and caregivers, people who love them, clinicians, folks at agencies, anybody who's involved in the FASD community. And yes, absolutely, Sid, you in particular, I will let view a draft of the white paper. So, and anybody who is in the room has the opportunity to be named as a co-author on that white paper as well. So again, this is going to be a cyclical thing that we do during Impact Week, is review those recommendations, see where we are, see where we need to go, and keep plotting the course ahead, as opposed to simply looking at the red tape and the history. What can we do to move forward? What's actionable? What can we do to make things better? And it was exciting. I took a video and it didn't translate well, unfortunately, but of the noise in the room. So imagine this room full of people who, kind of a big deal in the FASD world. I was, a little starstruck by some of them, and hearing the buzz of conversations all at these different tables, all problem solving on what do we do next. It was a pretty powerful moment. And I want to give a shout out to my colleague, Emma Baldwin, for coming up with the idea for that day, and to my colleague, Sarah Brown, for executing it. It was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I was sitting right outside the door during the entire symposium, and the buzz coming from the room just kind of had me giddy the whole time. It really sounded like there was some good work being done in there. Liz, I think you said something good about it, that it was at times abstract, but also moving the field, and there were actionable items that were coming out of it. I'm not sure if you remember exactly what you said, but
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I really, other than the Hill day, going and meeting with, that was the most powerful part of the whole week. And I just am so amazed by Emma that she thinks of this stuff, and just the ideas behind it is just fascinating.
yeah, we are more than lucky to have Emma on our team over here. Very happy. And Kristen, I'm glad you just said all your besties in one picture. Absolutely. I love this picture. This is the 5 of them up on the hill, just off of the federal area, and enjoying a little break between their meetings, showing off their shirts. If anyone is interested in a Hill Day shirt, please give me a call or an email in. We have a few left over that we'll be selling. I think we're going to do $20. If anyone would like one from last year as well, we have just a few more of those. We'd be more than willing to have those sent out to you. But just like sitting outside of the at the registration table during the symposium, and there was the buzz in the room, this picture gave me the same feeling. What it means to have this community all together in one space to collaborate and to inspire each other does more to move the field forward than just about anything else, I would say. As somebody who comes to this field from the outside, I come from direct support, the psychology background, and then nonprofit. I feel incredibly welcomed and helped within this community. And this picture is something that just reminds me of that. I wish any of these 5 were on this call so I could say thank you to them. But you can all be proxies for that. So thank you all. Another benefit of joining us here in town is the opportunity to meet with your actual representative. On the left, we have Guida Brown, who was able to set up a meeting with the representative, Representative Steele out of Wisconsin. I've been in a meeting with Guida before. How any representative can walk out of that meeting and not immediately sign on is beyond me. So I hope to see his name on our co-sponsor list soon. And then on the right is Robin Bergamy from Michigan. I believe this was her first meeting ever. And I really enjoyed working with Robin leading up to this. And I hope they join up before. She was one who had a little bit of apprehension going into the meeting. But then after, I think just felt so empowered and knew that she was the expert of her own experience. And I look forward to working with her a little bit more.
I'm going to blitz through this next one, even though they're great pictures and include Chris. and get us kind of to the end. This is just a small sample of the group. Not everybody made it there because it was pouring down rain that was up on the hill that day, but I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with something to know, something to feel, and something to do. I want you to know that the meetings that we have with our legislators, even if it's with the teenage staffer that has, gone through 16 different offices, they do make a difference, and we are going into crunch time. I hope you leave with the feeling of urgency and just the knowledge of the power of this community. This community can make great things happen, and that you're empowered to connect. It doesn't matter who you're connecting with, whether you're connecting with other people in your state to get them empowered to move, or whether you're connecting with your legislators yourself. And then the do, please book your meetings. We need as many meetings as we can get in at this point because, we've got one shot to get this done in a lame duck. We want to ask them to co-sponsor, and we want to ask them to pass the FASD Respect Act. That's what we need. There's all kinds of logistics behind the Support Act, and we're signing on to this letter and it's going through this committee. The message is really simple. We want you to co-sponsor the FASD Respect Act, and we want you to pass the FASD Respect Act. This is how we give FASD a seat at the table. So I hope we're leaving you with something you know, something you feel, something you do. I would also add that with the Hill Day shirts, if you are a self-advocate, we're not going to charge you for a Hill Day shirt. We will just send you a Hill Day shirt. So self-advocates don't pay. But anyway, I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here with us today. Please email Chris and I with questions. Always the last Wednesday of each month. Policy doesn't take a holiday. And really looking for way more co-sponsors when we meet again. A huge slate of meetings, even if it isn't our virtual Hill Day. And I know we can do this. We can get this done. Anything, last words, Chris?
No, perfect. Thank you, Jen.
That would be good.
Right. Thank you all. And apologies for my husband chatting in the background. We have dueling Zooms going on right now.